without further ado, my friend, Big Z, Zander Krause, joins us now on Friday.
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Oh, how am I doing? You could put me on a magic carpet right now, bro. I'm just sailing away.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
Man, have these last two articles, these last 2 days, changed your opinion in any way of anything? In a perception, has it made you think more, less? Has it made you think more of someone else, less of someone else? Has anything evolved differently? Or, again, and I'm not saying, Zander, that you haven't gone down this lane and approached all these issues that we have approached the last 5 years. My question is, has anything been more maybe solidified for you, or maybe there's more questions on certain issues on where and what they're going to do moving into 26?
Well, I don't think it's anything we haven't known, but what I think maybe we learned this week is that where the Eagles organization stands a little bit more. You know, whereas in the past we didn't. I don't think it was ever really known if the Eagles organization had as much of a problem with the offense as we did, or they thought that Jalen Hurts was untouchable, you know, after the Super Bowl and after really 2 Super Bowl appearances. So I think maybe we learned a little bit more that the owner is still the same owner that he was 5 years ago, who moved on from Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and rebuilt the perennial, you know, Super Bowl contender again. And I don't think he's afraid to do that again. I don't think he's going to put any player or person or coach above that mission. And I think you've learned that this week. And I think you've also maybe learned a little bit more about the inner workings of the Eagles, in that it's obvious that people inside the organization have just as big of a problem with this offense as the fans did last year, as you and I have talked about on this show for the last year and change, as all the commentators. Because sometimes I think teams make it feel like the commentary is so off base, it doesn't even exist inside the building. And that's clearly not true, right? I mean, the fans have been talking about the offense sucking, and sometimes it feels like the Eagles and Nick, they're just like, they act like it doesn't exist, or that we're crazies for talking about it. Well, I think people inside the organization maybe feel the same way that many outside the organization do. And I think it's all a good thing, to be frank, because the offense wasn't good enough. And if they're going to act like there was nothing to address, that would be a far bigger problem than them talking about the things they have to address. So I think it's a good thing.
So when you say the offense isn't good enough, that means you're telling me the quarterback's not good enough.
Well, it wasn't good enough last year. Certainly not.
Moving forward.
I mean, and hey, you could make an argument that 24, was not really a great year for Jalen Hurts. Now, Again, I don't criticize him for that, because the team really didn't need him to be more than he was. I thought he was a great game manager that year and what he needed to do. Don't turn the ball over, get the ball in the hands of the right players, kind of step back and let the other people you have on this roster go to work. And that's what he did. The defense dominated, Saquon dominated, and then when you needed them to step up in the Super Bowl, he was able to do it. But that doesn't change that the passing offense wasn't good. And last year, obviously, it came to a head, and that the defenses took away Saquon and took away some of the big runs, and still they were unable to pass the ball effectively enough. So, I think that's a big thing there.
Okay. So I want you to help me now with the new approach that they're potentially. And by the way, do you not agree? Now, I'm not saying they're going to run the Matthew Stafford offense. They're going to run probably a variation, or try to, within a variation. Do you not agree of something implementing under center? They're going to try to do a lot more things, maybe again in motion, try to be a little bit more complex, maybe like how about this? Maybe smarten the offense up a little bit more instead of being so predictable the way it is. You agree with that, right?
Well, yeah, but what version of Jalen are we getting, Sills?
No. I'm gonna. This is where I'm gonna go here. Okay. So when they increase the volume of play with him, with upping that type of tempo and passing, in 2023, he had 24 turnovers in 17 games. 15 turnovers. He had in interceptions, 9 fumbles. That's 24.
That's a
His
lot.
First 4 games In 2024, the Super Bowl year, he had 6 turnovers, 4
Seven.
picks,
It was 7.
7. Okay. So you're talking about 31 turnovers, 31 turnovers in 21 games by upping the volume. Prior to that, Zander, he had averaged 29 attempts passing the ball. After that, it went to 18.1 after the first 4 games. They lowered it, and get this, that meant the number of turnovers came down, and all of a sudden they started evolving like you and me had talked to. You went from 10 less attempts, dropping that number down because they knew it would drop the opportunity of turnover down. Now, are you up in the volume in this new offense? Are you not up in the volume? Is it cosmetic? You're hiring people that don't fit the kid's skill set. This looks like to me like you're building the offense for the next guy.
If they're going to run what we think they're going to run, then I would agree. But I don't know that for sure yet. And do you? I don't think any of us do.
Well, I'm only going by the hires.
Right. I understand. That's all the information you have. I'm not criticizing you at all. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, is there a chance that Sean Mannion, isn't stupid and comes in and says, yeah, that's not going to work with Jalen Hurts. We need to get him running. We need to, implement more of the things that are based around his skill set. I think there's a chance that happens. I agree with you. The hires don't add up to that at all, but it's not going to work if they do that, dude. It's not going to work. It's not going to work if they do that.
Okay, well, let me go to the other part of this thing here. When does Jalen Hurts go to his agent and say, this is not, they're sabotaging me?
Well, sabotaging him?
Okay, well, wait a minute.
Another quarterback on planet Earth that can throw for 2,900 yards and end up with a Super Bowl MVP and a magazine cover. Come on.
Okay, then my comeback to you would be, why are you changing it? We were 50 and 18.
Because the other stuff stopped working.
Okay. You told me 2 days ago the floor with Hurts is 11 wins.
Well, I'm trying to be, I don't think that's you got to pin that on.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if you're telling me that
I try and give the people a little optimism and Sileo
what I'm saying,
like it's etched in stone.
No, but wait a minute. If my bottom line is 11 wins, and get this, I'm knocked out in the playoffs, and I've been to the playoffs every year, and it may not be as cosmetically as you like.
Yeah, but does everybody want what they had last year?
If it produces winning,
and I don't want 11 wins and a playoff loss when the offense.
Okay.
I'd rather win 4 games and fucking rebuild like we did in 2020.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you think you're closer to a Super Bowl if you're relying on the O-line to get healthier? Or do you think you're closer to a Super Bowl by firing the entire offensive coaching staff and changing the scheme?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, when you say it like that, they're nowhere close.
But the other way they are. If the offensive line comes back healthy, you're assuming
that would mean, well, that's what I'm saying. Is there a chance that Sean Mannion doesn't change this thing as much? For example,
yes,
coaches talk, right? Do you think, and just answer me this, do you think, and this is obviously just speculation, do you think Sean Mannion has had a phone conversation with Kellen Moore since he was hired?
Yes.
You do, right? Because I do too. Now I can't prove that.
No. Assistants talk to everybody.
Right. Sean Mannion gets hired, doing his job, starting to build the playbook, starting to look at his players, starting to watch tape. Let me call Shane Steichen. Let me call, I think there's a coaching fraternity. These guys can talk to each other. Absolutely. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but assuming that Sean Mannion talked to Kellen Moore for a second, what do you think Kellen told him? Yeah, I tried to run volume offense. It did not work well.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think Mannion is blind to that. That's a clear part of the team's history, recent history, that would dictate the way a smart football mind would craft and create an offense for a certain player. And I think that's very fair and smart, to be frank. So I'm not really sold yet that he's going to come in here and change it entirely. I just don't know what like when we say that. All right, so what does it look? What's different then from last year? Just execution? Just the offensive line getting healthy? Is that it? Is that all you can do? How many times have you heard, Sileo, people in your comments say, this simplified offense, this hairy high school offense, well, guys, we kind of knew this, but we've now confirmed here. Like, this is because of Jalen.
Yeah,
it's not because Nick Sirianni doesn't know what motion is. I know Prince and people out there who hate Nick Sirianni think that's true. That's not true.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
not
that.
true. Doesn't mean Nick Sirianni is the greatest coach in the world. It just means that he's not that much of a dumbass.
I do not believe that at all. I think, as a matter of fact, it surely looks like they're building the offense for Tanner McKee.
Well,
or how about this? I'll take that back. A guy with Tanner McKee's skill set.
Right. That's closer. I agree with that. I mean, almost everything they've done would insinuate that.
I mean, it's almost like I said, they're building it for the next guy. And Zander, I'm going to do this again.
Well, do you think they are? I mean, it's one thing to say it looks like that, because I agree. It's another thing to say
we won't know till September.
Right. Are they building it for the next guy?
Are they building it for the next guy? Correct. Okay, here's another one here, and I'm going to go back because we had kind of a small convo on this. By the way, guys, please hit the like button here on this Good Friday. Thank you so much. Do you agree that a coach, do you think that Clint Hurt has made your two defensive tackles better?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Do you
I don't think he's given them supernatural talent. Like, but I think he's brought it out of them. Yeah, I think he's taught them the game in a way where their talent translates to the football field.
Do you think Bobby King and Vic Fangio's improved the linebacking position beyond anything you could have ever hoped for?
Yes.
Prior to that, it was a train wreck, correct?
Here's an easy answer to that. Does Zach Baum become the player Zach Baum
No way.
in any other team? I don't think so. So, yes, 100%.
Has Nick Sirianni put the best people around Jalen Hurts since he's been an Eagle quarterback?
Around him? I think he's put pretty good guys around him.
You think he's hired people to help Jalen Hurts?
Well, coaching, I guess you're talking about here.
I'm talking about coaching the player to get the best out of the player. The number one position on a football team is a quarterback, is it not?
Well, Kellen Moore was a good hire.
Kellen Moore did not get Jalen Hurts better. He didn't make him
I know, but that's not what you asked. You asked if Nick Sirianni's put people around Jalen Hurts
to make him better. To make him better.
Well, remember, Nick Sirianni.
You see, the problem with the Philadelphia Eagles is that you're right, Zander. It's about the unit getting better. Every other place, 31 other teams, it's about the quarterback getting better. Well, Sam Darnold is the greatest example of that.
Maybe the Eagles are right then. I mean, maybe it's not all about getting Jalen better.
That's the mentality that they have going back to Carson Wentz. That's the mentality that they believe that their fundamental way of building a football team, Zander, and having a unit better, the quarterback is just as, to them, he's a pawn in this whole thing,
yeah, but let me ask
everyone else.
Because I think the way you laid that out was pretty good. Like where you talk about Vic and the linebackers and Clint and the defensive tackles. But like, let's flip that the other way for a second. Do you think Clint Hurt looks like a good coach in Philly if he doesn't have Jalen Carter?
No.
He's got Thomas Booker, and somebody else. No. Do you think Vic Fangio and Bobby King have great linebacker play or have a good coaching resume out of Philly if they have Smile Monday? Now, the only reason I say that is because, some of the hires can be criticized, but the most important thing is the players. And if you tell me, hey, Jalen Hurts, here's A.J. Brown, here's Devontae Smith, here's this offensive line, here's Saquon Barkley, here's Dallas Goedert. Here, that's enough.
How was N'Kobe prior to Bobby King and Vic showing up? He was hurt and underperforming.
Correct.
How about Vaughn was a special teams dude for 4 years in New Orleans?
Yep.
You think that coach got them better?
100%.
Okay. Well, you think if I put a quality coach like that, like a Vic Fangio around Jalen, I could maybe get more out of the quarterback?
You could get more out of him, but are you going to change his skill set?
Okay, another one.
See, this is why I think this conversation is so hard, though.
So wait, Michael Vick said that if he had Andy Reid, his first year in the pros, he would have been 10 times the player because I had a better coach than what he had with Dan Reeves.
Right.
Dan Reeves never got the most out of Elway. And all of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan gets in there and goes like this. Let me put a run game together. Let me put another guy in the backfield. All of a sudden, Elway ends his career with 2 consecutive Super Bowl wins.
Right.
That's coaching, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my gripe with this, or my reservation with this is, let me ask you this. What does the very best let's assume it was a perfect world and they hired the perfect coaches for Jalen Hurts. What does the best version of him look like? What does the offense look like?
22. Dude.
Do you think that exists? Do you think that can exist again?
I think the player doesn't want to be that guy any longer.
But even if that wasn't a point.
If that was here, Zander, if you're in a fist fight with George Foreman and he hits you with the right hand, and that's what his forte is knocking your ass out. I don't care how much rope-a-dope. I don't care how much you think this and that. You're going to duck. You're going to get out of the way. George Foreman's going to hit you with a right hand and knock your ass out. Sometimes, dude, you know what? Everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the chin.
Yeah, it's very true.
And the Eagles in 24, you don't think their game plan was that really exotic, do you? They ran at people and ran them over.
Yeah, it wasn't that exotic. I mean, it wasn't.
They just beat you up, right?
Yeah, literally. Beat you up.
Just beat you up. Now, all of a sudden, when they can't beat you up anymore, the quarterback hasn't been prepared for this.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
The coaching staff did not prepare him.
So if the Eagles had the perfect coaches around Hurts, let's use last year as an example, where the offensive line wasn't perfect. Saquon Barkley didn't have a great year. What does that look like? Is he capable of lifting that team further than they went with his skill set?
If I had somebody like Kingsbury or Shane Steichen around him that knows how to do dual threat things, I think you're further along with Jalen's development. And Jalen could have taken that baton when the run game wasn't there. He could have been somebody that had been developed the entire time. I said this the Super Bowl year. Kellen Moore did more damage to Jalen Hurts and his skill set than any coordinator they had, because you know what they did? They completely abandoned the passing game, and they were the 4th worst passing team in pro football. They completely got away from it. You know what everybody's opinion was? Well, they didn't need it. Well, shit, dude. You're going to need it when there's no run game. And Hurts showed up in the Super Bowl and showed you he could do it. But they never relied on it for a consistent basis to give him the reps. You know what Jalen Hurts lacks? Passing reps. He needed to learn to fail more. You know, Peyton Manning threw 28 picks his first year in the league.
But again, you're getting back to a point where I'm not sure the skill set is there to ever get to that point.
Well, then you got the wrong dude.
Well, it doesn't mean you have the wrong dude. It just means you need other variables. Wrong coach. You need other variables.
Coach.
No, I'm talking about offensive line.
What are you wanting to add?
The offensive line has to be better.
Okay, that goes back to my point. Well, why didn't they just say this? Well, shit, if they're going to blame Jeff Stoutland on the run game because of the health of the offensive line, why are you blaming the ills of the offense on play calling and having to formulate a new offensive approach when first you blame Stoutland for the run game? Now, all of a sudden, you're not blaming anybody else for the injuries. You're blaming now a little bit the quarterback with these 2 articles coming out that they couldn't evolve the passing game. You're trying to have your cake and eat it on both ends here with this. This is why your dad was right. Dude.
I didn't hear. What do you say?
It just doesn't make sense why you go in a direction. I would have done this. I would have ran that pony until his hoofs fell off.
I just don't think they believe that it's going to work.
Okay.
Like they believe the growing pains or the inevitable.
That way is theory. I've seen this work.
I know, but I think, have you ever heard the saying, the only way out is through? I think that's where the Eagles are. Like, I think they've shown you they no longer believe that investing the resources and the assets in building on that style of play is worth it. I mean, think about it, Sales. Everything they've done in the last 4 years is away from that.
Risky.
They hired Kellen Moore. They hired even Kevin Petula, who was a pass game coordinator. Now they bring in Sean Mannion. They know they're showing us they don't want to build that way anymore. They'd rather hold the feet to the fire and let it burn and have to rebuild it than try and win the other way. That's what it appears to me.
Man,
I mean, if it's as simple as you're making it seem, then what the fuck are we doing here? Dude, just go get somebody to run the RPO. Go hire Cliff Kingsbury. Is he even hired right now? He's like an offensive assistant somewhere.
Okay, well then again, you're hiring a staff in concepts versus something you've done. What's more of a risk? A concept or certainty?
My point is, I just don't think what they've done is what they believe will continue to win.
So they're risking a low bar of 11 wins for something they're not sure.
Yeah, but I don't.
Bro, there's no way. Get this. I don't know if I'm right.
Do you think the league is caught up with the Eagles now?
How do you get caught up with somebody who knocks people out?
Huh. That's another. That's another catch-22 because if that's hard to have every year. Like, dude, you're not going to have a historic offensive line every year.
You know what? Well, wait a minute. They weren't historic in 22 and they got to the Super Bowl.
I know, but
they had Miles Sanders.
Have you heard the way people talk about the offensive line last year?
I got
people talk about the offensive line last year like they were the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, dude, the offensive line
last year, the 24 season.
Yeah, like they weren't great,
they
but
were not that bad.
They were above middle of the pack. They were probably easily top 12.
13, 12, somewhere in there.
And people talk about them like they were 38th.
Pass protection, they're a top 5.
They were 2.
Okay.
Number 2 overall, according to PFF, graded out. Take for it what you will.